The UN's World Happiness Report is out for 2017. They've done this every year since 2012. And what they do is this very complex analysis. They actually ask people, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you? I'm obviously joking. It's not complex at all. It's the most simple thing in the world. But one can make the argument, and it's a fairly persuasive argument, this might be the best measure of happiness. Because what is happiness but subjective? You know? Oh, are you happy? No. Well, actually, I've measured and you're objectively happy. Wait, what? That doesn't make any sense. So in a weird way, even though this is a subjective happiness report, it's kind of as objective as a happiness report can be. Because they're just asking people, hey, scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you? So, let me give you the results because this is something. Now, first I want to give you the least happy countries. So you have Yemen, unsurprising. There's a near famine going on there, and there's a war going on, which isn't even really a war. It's just Saudi Arabia massacring civilians. Yemen's one of the most unhappy. South Sudan, for obvious reasons. Liberia, Guinea, Togo, Rwanda. Syria, giant civil war going on there. Tanzania, Burundi, and the Central African Republic. Well, most of them. So when you look at that, what you see is either very, very poor nations, nations that are lacking resources, nations that don't have a really stable, organized system of government, or famine, or war. So for very clear reasons, you can see why these are unhappy. So again, this gets back to my main point of, even though it's technically a subjective happiness report, it's almost as objective as a report can be on this front. So those are the ones that are the least happy. You ready for the happiest? Let's go from number 10 to number 1. We have Sweden, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the Netherlands, Finland, Switzerland, Iceland, Denmark, and Norway. Yeah. Notice anything about them? First of all, the overwhelming majority of them are the Scandinavian countries, the Nordic countries, which I don't know, we talk about on this show maybe more than anybody else talks about them on the planet. I mean, we bring it up like every day. Scandinavian countries, Scandinavian countries, Scandinavian countries, Scandinavian countries. Now, why do I do it? Well, now you see why I do it. Because you ask them and they say, yeah, my quality of life is awesome. I love it. They're dominating the top 10, man. The top 5 is like all them. And by the way, this happens virtually every year. In fact, they say it in the piece. The piece I read on this was on BBC. And they said, yeah, the Scandinavian region dominated like every year so far. And Denmark specifically was always the top, either number 1 or top 3. You know, it turns out social democracy is wildly popular. Wildly popular. By the way, the U.S., I think, was number 13 or 14, thereabouts. But what you have here, what do all these countries have in common? Even the ones that aren't the Scandinavian countries. Well, one thing is universal health care, single-payer health care. All, weird. It turns out when you take healthcare off the table is something people have to fucking worry about, that in the U.S. they might die because they don't have access to basic care, or they might go bankrupt because they need a common surgery. Well, when you take that off the table, turns out people are happier. Strange. Not going bankrupt for medical bills tends to make people happier. So they all have universal healthcare. A lot of these countries either a high minimum wage, so like Australia, about $18 an hour. Or many of these have, it's not even a minimum wage issue, it's a union issue where they have strong unions where they don't even need a minimum wage because they collectively bargain for all the wages. So nobody even makes what would have been a minimum wage. So it turns out when you have a middle class that's healthy and wealthy, you have a happy country. Material well-being tends to affect your well-being. Radical, I know. So radical. So these are countries that have a strong middle class. You know what else they have? Either free college or super duper reduced cost college. All these nations. Another shocker. Wow. When you're not going bankrupt because of fucking student loans and paying them into your goddamn 60s or 70s. And by the way, you can't go bankrupt on student loans. You have to pay it, period. It's a special kind of debt where they say, nope, you got to pay every single fucking penny, no reduce, nothing, no bankruptcy, period. So it turns out when you treat people right and you say, hey, maybe education is something civilized countries take off the table and you get that simply by being born because it gives you equal opportunity and it's investment in the future, turns out people are really fucking happy. So you have strong wages, and the other thing is vacation time. All these nations, paid vacation time by law, paid family leave by law. Did you know the U.S. is one of 3 nations that doesn't have paid maternity leave by law? One of 3 nations in the entire world. So that means even like Iran has paid maternity leave by law, all these other countries. Now that's, by the way, that's not to say they're good on women's issues on other fronts. Of course they're not. But every nation except 3 has paid maternity leave by law. And on that list is the United States, Papua New Guinea, and Oman. Those are the only 3 that don't have paid maternity leave. So all these nations paid family leave and paid vacation time by law. The U.S. has 0 paid vacation days by law. All these countries have multiple weeks, if not over a month in some cases. So, free healthcare, free college, high wages for the middle class, a vibrant middle class. They look out for poor people. Paid vacation time, paid family leave. It turns out when you give people just the basics, and that's what that is, let's be honest, that's just the basics in life. Like you need some time off from work, you know, be a human, live, fucking enjoy yourself a little bit, not just always slave away in a factory for your employer who's your fucking overlord. So some time off, some healthcare, education, good wages, and people go, you know what, I'm pretty fucking happy. I'm pretty fucking happy. And these are social democracies. So in other words, it's a healthy mix of socialism and capitalism. And you regulate the capitalism to make sure there's no abuses, and you have a rising standard of living, and everybody's fucking happy. So like, I fucking told you, it's not that difficult, man. Like, you have the libertarians who are so goofy. Like, where's your precedent? Go ahead, point to me your historical precedent of, this is our ideal system, anarcho-capitalism, and it works great. When did we have that? When did anybody fucking have that? Oh, the Industrial Revolution. What a fucking great time when children would get crushed in machines and die and workers would get black lung because there's no goddamn environmental regulations or health or safety regulations. And everybody had to work and kids were in the factories. And oh, wasn't it great? Because we had a lot of, GDP growth. Yes, growth is not the only fucking economic measure as to the well-being of a country, you morons. So where's your precedent? The Industrial Revolution in the U.S.? Somalia? No regulations? Total wild, wild west marketplace? By the way, they hate it when you bring up Somalia. Like, oh, yeah. They mock us for bringing it up. Like we're fucking strawmanning them or something. No, that's the kind of system you like. No centralized government and a fucking total free marketplace. There you go. And it's a fucking disaster. So there's no precedent for that. And look, sorry, but people to the left of me, communists, where's your fucking precedent? Where's your precedent? How did it go in those countries? How did it go in communist countries? You know what happened? The government had too much power, and they got too involved on the social front. So in communist countries, it's authoritarian leftism, and you had people who said, oh, sorry, free speech, free expression, a free press? No, not having it. The government's going to control that, and we're going to crack down on you if you dissent from us. Now, this is where they go, that's not true, communism. I know. It's never true X when it's your ideology run amok. Never. It's not that, hey, maybe that's an inevitable consequence when you try to do communism. No, that is what it is. You can't just, that country was communist, but it doesn't count as communist. Well, sure, that guy who did a terrorist attack was Muslim, but he doesn't count as Muslim. The fuck is that? You gotta own it. And that's not saying all communists are bad people or all Muslims are bad people. Of course not. It's just saying you can't only count the good ones. You can't only count the bad ones, but you can't only count the good ones. But look, it turns out with communism, what happens? Well, Soviet Union, how did that work out? It was a failed experiment. People, oh no, but outside factors. You're incorrect. That's not true. So if communism fails, obviously, I mean, I don't even need to get into like fascism with fucking Adolf Hitler and Mussolini. Won't even touch that one because it's just so obvious it's a disgusting failure for a variety of reasons. And if anarcho-capitalism doesn't work, what do we have left? Let me fucking think about it. Social democracy, mix of socialism and capitalism, a healthy mix. Some things are free market but regulated. Other things are, yes, the government socialist. But furthermore, what you have, on top of all the other great things I mentioned, free healthcare, free college, paid vacation time, good wages, they have social freedoms in many of these countries. So what that means is there's no authoritarian angle here. You know, some of these countries are much more lax with drugs, and as it should be, and women's rights, make your own decision. So that's the key, man. You need total social freedom. So no overreaching government in your private life with social decisions. So no authoritarianism, libertarianism instead of authoritarianism on social issues. And on economic issues, you just need that baseline. You just need equal opportunity. You know? And the results are, it fucking works. And this is why I'm always amazed. I feel like we're the only... we're not. Calm down, Kyle. It feels at times like we're the only outlet that just argues for social democracy and calls it by its name and is very specific about, hey, here's what we want. But it should be the case that everybody fucking argues for it, because when it comes to this is objective. This is empirical evidence. This is, hey, here's a report which does it in the most clear way, where I don't know of a better metric than just asking people, hey, are you happy? Here's a clear report that says, hey, maybe those systems are the best. And this should constitute evidence to all of us that that's the direction our country needs to go. I want to have free healthcare. I want to have free college. I want to end these stupid wars. I want to increase your social freedoms. You know, I want to have a higher minimum wage. I want to have more unionization. I want to get money out of politics and limit corruption. That's another thing. These countries are some of the least corrupt countries on the planet. They have, in some of them, versions of clean elections. So we have our answers, guys. We have our answers. Now we just got to push for it. We got to fight for it. We got to argue for it. We got to raise consciousness and raise awareness. This is the answer. Social democracy is the future if the future is going to be bright in any way.